Oh, we're on.
Or,
Hi.
or we could remember that there's a timer running, and that any minute now, people are gonna be able to see us talking.
That's a word that we both can spell.
Totes profesh. Just totes profesh.
Nothing but vibes.
He says, Old Gods just dropped a huge amount on the Kickstarter. Oh, nice. Well, I think they were tweeting about it earlier. I saw it a little bit.
We're also very quiet.
Very okay, come here. Come here, you bad No! Bad!
No, too close, darling.
No. It's too close. Okay, let's try this. Is that better? What? Why? Well, that's a little bit better. I guess. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
This is the shipping forecast. Ships in it.
Really? You went there?
I went there.
Okay.
I went there.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, folks.
Up
How are you?
Gain. Yeah, it keeps. I'm just. I can't do it and talk at the same time, folks. I'm sorry. I could go to the technical difficulties screen, but we'll worry about it later. I think the gain on this thing keeps falling. Let me just. I can't look.
So anyway, how have you all been? Good. Okay.
Maybe that's a bit better. I don't know. I can't.
You're still very quiet. I have my headphones on.
I have my headphones turned all the way up and can only just hear you. I'm not sure what's going on there, Wendy. Folks, are we coming across as super, super quiet? Let me check something just to make sure. No, it is in fact the correct microphone. Yeah, I know. Don't see. That's why I don't want people to turn it up too loud, because then the incidental music will kick in and you'll get harmed, and I don't want that to happen. So, audio settings. Okay, I'll come back to that. Hello.
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. Hello, everybody.
Hi, folks.
How are you? We are here. It's only Wednesday. It's already been an week. But, you know, that's what it is. What it is. How are you?
I'm all right.
You all right?
I'm all right.
You're all right.
All right.
We can't just do this.
No, we can't. I'm doing okay. The job search continues. I had a interesting moment of, that was a near miss earlier today, which is also slightly unfortunate, because there was a thing that I almost went for, but which closed before I got to it. And the lady who had put that job up is now also seeking work, which leads me to believe that that position may have not existed long enough for.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is this the person who you got contact from and then didn't get contact from, and now? Oh boy. Huh.
Oh yeah. It is hard out there right now.
It's not the greatest of job markets.
It's hard.
At the moment. Last table read, very exciting. I got the first coffee talk, and it's all done in solidarity of my love for Myrtle. The coffee talk games are wonderful.
They're great, and also Team Myrtle.
I'm really enjoying them, and
although I am very fond of Louis. All right,
Lucas,
pardon me. All right, sorry about that. I was a bit of an asshole.
Yes, exactly.
Should have put my pants on. Yes.
He's a satyr. Pants are
negotiable.
Optional? I don't know. I'm not watching. I'm not paying that much level of attention. Playing coffee talk. Coffee talk. Yes, exactly. God, we are really scattered tonight, everybody.
It's been quite an intense week.
I had a very intense work day, and then I spent 90 minutes on the phone with International trying to sort banking things. And just don't run a country. Don't run a country.
Don't run a country.
I could stop there. Don't run a company when you live in a different country, okay? It's really kind of logistically difficult. And so I've gone from like thing to thing to thing today, and I'm like, okay, caffeine. Caffeine will be my friend tonight, for sure.
Whereas I had a tattoo enhancement appointment earlier today, then finished off the full lid for the week, about 36 hours earlier than I normally do. And it's all the way done, by the way, including signal boost.
That's very lovely.
And then I did 2 pseudopod outros, and then I did 100 questions of driving revision.
And thank you very much, Ducky, for capturing 4th of July adjacent nonsense has been added to the shenanigans files, which sounds delightful.
I'm always up for some of that shit.
Pants are always up for them. Managed to greet all the people. Okay, they are. Is there Nimona content coming up?
Why this very week?
Why this very week? Because it was freaking amazing and it made me cry. And because one of the main characters' name was Ballister.
Which
and
is
it made
kind
me
of like
laugh.
Alistair.
So
yes.
it was very fun. We enjoyed the heck out of it. It was very, very good. And then very, very cryful. And wonderful.
What happened? You passed out. I dragged you 6-7 months. You banged your head a couple times.
Another boy. I am
today. So her backwards walk out of shot kills me.
That was
it
just
kills me.
Never read the graphic novel. I understand that they were comics before they were a movie.
Yes, indeed.
Had a lovely, wonderful time. I love like the stylistic approach to it, like the hover cars that then become carriages with their wheels folding
and
down.
And the motorbikes that look
and
kind of like horses.
And the flying motorcycles that look kind of like horses and stuff. I thought that was a really neat way of kind of signposting that some of this part of this society is advanced and some hasn't, and it's layered and juicy and messy, and I really enjoyed it.
Also, just a top-down great voice cast.
Oh yeah.
I would listen to Riz Ahmed read the phone book. And it's just yet another thing in Chloe Grace Moretz's career long. I'm really very good.
Right,
and I can do lots of things.
It is a bit more bitter, morally gray than the movie. Okay. Feel that the creator did the comic and the movie at different points in their life. Okay.
Yes.
But I like that because we're having kind of the same conversation but in different context, which was really good. Speaking of same conversation in different context.
Showrunner on She-Ra, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Which explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yes. Watch the first half season of The Witcher season 3, which the last episode of which is, if not a tip of the hat to the Rashomon job, then it should be, because it was delightful. Had a very good time with it, just all in general.
Also, an entire lost episode that could legitimately be summed up by fuck.
Yeah, basically, very much so. I think that's it. Is that everything? I've lost track of time.
I watched all the Insidious movies.
Why?
Because the last one's out on Friday, and I was curious.
Okay.
And the first couple are actually, they're kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment they go, oh yeah, anyway, this family had been haunted a little bit, but this awesome old lady who punches ghosts from time to time, and her two slightly Mormon-presenting low-tech ghost hunters, they're much more fun. 3 and 4 are great. 1 and 2 are kind of there.
So they're like the Fast and the Furious movies then?
Yes.
Okay. Fuck is a very faithful summary of Witcher. Yes, exactly. They're doing a really good job with the Geralt and Yennefer stuff too, which I just never picked up on the books and actively railed against in the.
This is possibly the first game where they are first series where they aren't fucking unbearable.
Yes,
it's kind of great. Also, there is so much of my disaster bard that just Jaskier gets so much good stuff this half season.
Greg has started playing Inscription, and watching him is every single little bit as frustrating as it could possibly be, so now I play something else whenever he picks it up.
Wendy, I would like to talk to you about play techniques real quick, because I continue to use Power Wash Simulator as my relaxation game. I mean, I got the late Call of Duty Modern War Crime Simulator through PS Plus, but I haven't touched it yet. And I genuinely wanted you to know that you have changed me for the better as a player of games. Because right now there's a very unusual level, which is like, it's basically the old woman who lives in a shoe, but it's a kindergarten.
Hey, Mer, how you doing?
Oh, it sounds so fucking cool.
You did actual power washing at the weekend. I'm very jealous. That sounds fantastic.
I've been working in quadrants. I haven't wandered off to something else. I've kept going until it's cleared, and it feels so good. So, thank you. Hi, Mer.
Hey, how you doing? What are you washing right now?
I'm washing a kindergarten, which is a shoe. We don't talk about it.
Okay, I don't think
we don't talk about it.
I'm not.
No.
Wendy is very happy about this right now. But Wendy got to power wash actual things. I'm kind of jealous. And Wendy's about to go off on annual vacances, and I'm like very much looking forward to all the photos.
We had a cookout.
We did? Oh, that's right. We did. We got together with Griff, and Bryn and Autumn, and had an Americans in the UK kind of sort of 4th of July, and I made like 3 kilos of pork carnitas, and they were so good.
We had them for 3 straight days.
Yes.
All of us.
And watermelon and like buffalo chicken dip and really good like black beans, and we attempted s'mores, but it didn't work all that well.
I mean, it's chocolate graham crackers and marshmallows. You can
The graham crackers were fine. The chocolate dairy milk does not work well for s'mores, folks. It just doesn't.
Worked well for me because Marguerite stole it from me. When I stuff up.
You weren't supposed to say that part out loud. The chocolate bar just fell into the cooler. What can I say? Autumn and Bryn, I owe you a chocolate bar. Okay, I'm sorry.
Also, driving through London is a little bit like going to hell.
There is a use for the Hershey's Waxmer, and that use is s'mores. Unless you can get the dark chocolate bars from Trader Joe's, because those are even better.
We don't talk about the sack of Trader Joe's turbinado sugar-covered almonds and sea salt that we have forgotten that has been in the cupboard for a year.
I'm carefully hoarding them in case I really need them. Exactly. But yes, driving in actual London, and by that I mean within the M25, is hell, because my sat-nav hates me, and it won't let me just go back to the M25 and go the fast way. Instead, it insists on me going these ridiculous, long, crowded main roads in London where I have to go 40 miles an hour, and it has 9 million roundabouts for no apparent reason. And it was very frustrating, but we eventually got home.
Yes.
And this was like at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. It should not have been that bad. Reader, it was that bad. It was very, very... Just don't drive in London. Yes, I know that, but I'm not going to take the train with like a giant couple of bags of like potluck food. That's no. Also,
shan't.
It was Pride, and I'm not going on public transportation because it's heaving, and we would have had to have gone all the way through Zone 1. So I'm like, no.
Your first ever on the road driving lesson was at Hyde Park Corner. Your dad is a dick.
Wendy!
Puckish does not cover
Wendy,
it.
that's rude! That's just rude! There is a technique to London driving. Everything in front of your wing mirrors is your responsibility. Everything behind them is the guy behind's problem, and never look in your mirror. I mean, you're
Checks
not
out.
wrong, but still, I did not enjoy that. That was not the fun part. No. Very not. Pezzy and I both live in Newcastle, which is a sensibly sized city. Okay, nice, fine, cool. So many lefts. Yeah, and then SatNav doesn't know like when there are bollards and pedestrianized streets. So it's like, go this way. I'm like, honey, I can't. Sorry.
Dude, go down here. People will die.
You're not doing that. So sorry. But yes, we managed. It was fine. The potluck was lovely. We had lots of good food and chatted like the entire day, and it did not rain on us because we all took turns glaring at the sky, not to rain. And it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a little pink, I think.
Got a little bit of
sunburn, but that's okay.
Which, it being my body, I didn't notice until 24 hours later when my entire epidermis was like, it's 2 a.m. What's going on?
Why are
we warm?
Why am I radiating with the temperature of the sun? Like, no, you're too warm. Stop, I can't. And then this is where you walk everywhere. I can't walk. Pezzy, I can't walk and carry a watermelon and 4 kilos of carnitas at the same time.
That's what you have me for.
I'm sorry, I just can't.
So what you're saying is we need a trolley.
No, what I'm saying is I bought a SUV for exactly this purpose.
Possibly a mule.
Right? You know, I could just take 3 of my closest friends and all of their stuff. That is the intention of this vehicle. And it was, yes, it worked very well. So yeah, that was our week, and still more things are happening, and I wish they would stop. But such is it, such is life. For those of you who are in literary circles and have missed it, the Hugo Award finalists will be announced tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time.
Yeah.
I think it's like 9 o'clock Eastern, 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. So, yay! We'll get to find out who the
Exactly.
are.
Look at how many kilos of carnitas this baby can carry.
Exactly, right? That is exactly the intention of my vehicles. So that will be, yay! Tomorrow, we'll find out. Then we'll talk about what else we're doing this week when we get to the end of it.
What else are we doing this week?
God, I hope not much more.
What did I miss?
I'm getting so tired. Oh, I have to show everybody what I bought. Because David Tennant is a terrible influencer. Yay! We both have them now because they were available and they're wonderful and I'm adding them to my pinboard. They make me very happy. Mr. Pez had me carry all the bags across London to the train station so he can make sure nobody bashed his new hat. I may have also died.
Ooh.
Rude. That's a lot. So yes, for those of you who missed it, David and Georgia Tennant were wearing these at Pride.
Which say you are safe with me.
Yes.
And have every flag on them.
They say you are safe with me, and they have the modern Pride flag and the trans flag on them. And that is the URL, gayprideshop.co.uk, and they were $4.50, and they arrived very, very fast.
Like the day after, basically.
I'm very happy to add that to my collection, which is lovely. I think it's, it says you are safe with me. And they're very lovely.
By Indian Jones, do we mean...
Hold on, what?
Did Mr. Pez enjoy meeting Indian Jones? Are we talking about Thraxus Relaxus Borman here? The actor who plays Borman in the Willow TV show, which we can no longer watch because capitalism sucks, has the best Twitter name ever. He is a 6'5", fiercely beautiful
Southeast Asian
gentleman whose Twitter handle is Indian Jones.
Is Indian Jones, which I love. Actually, I think they met Harrison Ford.
Oh, so that's even cooler.
That is amazing. Nice. I think that's everything.
20 minutes, that's about standard.
20 minutes of waffling. I mean, it was that or we were going to read to you about Hearthstone's dual modes, but, you know, I messed up the button for the opening monologue this week. So we've improvised, shall we say. So, let's do a little reminder of what we're going to be reading here shortly. Oh, it's sold out. I'm not surprised, but I'm sorry, but you can't have mine. Sorry. Erie, Indiana Jones. Oh, nice reference. I appreciate that. So let us refresh everybody's memories about the spookiness we are about to transition to.
We are currently reading There Is No Antimemetics Division by Quantum, who is in the chat this evening. Good evening,
Quantum.
It is an SCP set story about the fight between the Antimemetics Division of the SCP Institute, whose job it is to defend us against predatory ideas that want to feed on our ability to perceive them, amongst other things, and basically the devil. Yeah. The thing that just the moment you understand it, it kills you.
Yes. And we are quite far into the book right now, so if you need some of the previous installments, there is a playlist that's been created. We are going to be starting this evening with chapter...
Content warnings. Extensive.
Oh, I'll get there. With chapter Case Hate Red.
Yes.
So the content warnings are extensive. There is a link to the full list of content warnings, which may include spoilers. But this evening, we will be diving deep into especially the horror themes, the mental health and trauma, the physical trauma and body horror. This is quite a nasty, nasty chapter. So you may wish to have your plushy, squeezy instruments of choice available to hand.
Those of you who've been listening along and have thought, well, at least nothing much worse can happen to Adam now. I'm so sorry.
Buckle up!
Here we go.
But before that, also a reminder, we do have a Dramatis Personae, if you are trying to remember who specific characters are. Should we get... I kind of feel like we should do the ad break first, so that people can go and get said squishy animals to hold and hoodies to hide in, if they need to.
I agree.
And then we'll come back. We'll just take 2-3 minutes, and then we will come back and we will begin the enfrightening. And I'm also going to check the gain on the microphone really quick so that we don't strain our voices. Okay, so get yourself a snack and a drink and all of that good stuff, and we will be right back. Alrighty.
Yes, we will. What an enigmatic note to return to live camera on. Well done.
Hopefully that's a little better as far as the microphone is concerned. It doesn't seem to be honest. It still looks pretty quiet. Don't want to have to like do this midstream, but la 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 la. That. Well.
I don't know, man. That seems to be hitting the top of the greens pretty safely at this point.
Yeah. You're still pretty quiet compared to the music. Well.
That's better. There we go.
All
top
right.
of the greens, bottom of the yellows.
There we go. I need to do some more like audio setting.
And that's why everyone on my starship died when they made me chief engineer.
What? Top of the greens?
Top of the greens, bottom of the yellows, Captain. You're fine. Should the warp core be doing that?
I mean, it should not be doing that, right? Okay, fine. Read the scary story now. Yes. Much with the scary.
Read the story, gobshite.
Read the story, scary boy. Okay. Did I make the word go? Why you? There we go. All right, fine. Here we go, everybody. Case Hate Red.
If Adam Wheeler gave it some thought, or if someone were to prompt him with the right questions, he could put words around the fact that his existence doesn't bring him any satisfaction. He would discover, on introspection, that he's nowhere close, actually to happy, and that there is something vast and significant missing from his life. But he doesn't give it any thought. There is a void between him and those questions. Objectively, academically, his life is great. As a professional violinist, he does what he loves the most for a living. He has talent, recognition, challenge, variety, applause, moderate wealth. What is there to question? Why shouldn't he love it? During slower moments, there is a grey worry in the back of his mind. It's there in the minutes right after he wakes up in the morning, before he makes it to the shower. It's there in the dead times backstage, when he can't use his phone and there's nothing to do but wait to go on. It perturbs him from time to time that he seems to exist in a kind of long shadow, cast by a vast class of thoughts which he is unable to think. But the rest of the time, on a day-to-day basis, his calendar is as busy as he and his manager can make it. He performs, solo and in orchestras. He records, he composes, he teaches. Every week is a different challenge. He keeps busy. And the feeling goes away if he's busy. On the morning of the day that... What did we decide the...
I don't know. Let's call it Scrilocal.
On the morning of the day that... I'll go with Sigil. How about that?
Sigil. All right, we'll call it Va.
Va.
Okay.
Thank
Va.
you, Quantum. On the morning of the day that Va arrives, while he is brushing his teeth, a tiny black slug falls out of the corner of his eye into the hotel sink. Ooh. He scratches that eye while drooling foam from his toothbrush. He takes a closer look at himself in the mirror. Yep, there's another one, fatter, growing in there, its tail protruding from his tear duct. I can do without this, he mutters to himself. He spits, rinses, and then takes a pair of tweezers out of his wash kit. Carefully, he nips the tiny waving end of the slug and he tugs it out. It's no more painful than extracting a nostril hair. He drops it in the sink with its friend and washes them both away, along with the froth of toothpaste. He stares at the plug hole for a long moment. It's like he's forgetting something. He can't bring it to mind. He shakes his head, goes to get dressed. Wheeler has been on tour with the New England Symphony Orchestra for nearly a month. They're at their final venue and it's their final night, and Wheeler has mixed feelings. Touring for him is an opportunity to explore a kind of liminal lifestyle where he can suspend a lot of worldly concerns and just exist as a being who wakes, travels, performs, and sleeps. But as novel as the experience is on paper, 4 weeks of it is grueling. By this stage in the tour, even the most naturally cheerful members of the orchestra have begun to show frayed nerves, and the program has become stale and repetitious. It is long past time for something else. Last night, his manager left messages about plans for upcoming weeks. Pardon me?
Yeah, that's right.
It's probably time he paid attention to those. Morning rehearsal starts at 11, so Wheeler takes a taxi from the hotel to the venue, bringing his tuxedo and his violin with him. The violin is an heirloom, more than 100 years old, and while he's touring, it never leaves his sight. His tuxedo is just a tuxedo. The concert hall is as close to the centre of the city as it gets, at the heart of a rat's nest of busy roads, which means the taxi journey is a slog, even setting out after rush hour. At the stage door, the place is in chaos, but it's only the typical pre-show chaos which Wheeler has spent much of his professional life navigating. He finishes a quick cigarette outside before joining the bustling flow of technicians, performers, and administrative staff. He finds his way to his dressing room, changes, unpacks his violin, tunes it. He flicks through tonight's music, more out of boredom than a need to refresh his memory. He has the whole program memorized. So, with some minutes to kill, he checks the headlines on his phone. Yet again, something dreadful and new which he doesn't understand is going viral. Today's fad is you paint a black vertical rectangle on the wall, or on a mirror, or over the top of a picture, and then you chant something. Wheeler can't quite pick out the words of the chant. They're in a language he's not familiar with. He's no singer, but he's performed pieces with lyrics in Latin, German, Greek, French, whereas this language has a bizarre, manufactured sense to it. As if it were simply English with the vowels and the consonants all switched around. Rehearsal goes reasonably. Wheeler long ago swore that he would never coast through a performance, and he plays decently well. But it seems to him as if a lot of the orchestra is distracted. Some cues get missed. He makes meaningful eye contact with the conductor a couple of times, and when they break for dinner late in the afternoon, the conductor, whose name is Lujan, privately remarks to him, "Their eyes need fixing." Wheeler doesn't wholly follow. He rubs his own eyes with a finger, reflexively. The memory of the morning tries to punch through. Fails. "You mean laser surgery?" Lujan responds with a few incomprehensible syllables and stalks away. The auditorium opens. The seats fill. As ever, there is a brief grey dead time while Wheeler waits for all the machinery of the performance to spin up. The anxious feeling is stronger than usual today. It grips him, an uncharacteristic urge to run away. Sure, he thinks, I could just junk my career right now. Pack it in, make for the stage door. Maybe the taxi will still be there.
Give me a second.
You need to scroll that way.
Oh, so yours is a square as well.
Yes.
Okay.
But he pushes through it. It's just a juvenile fantasy. It's been far too long a tour. One more show, and it's over. And then finally it's time, and he's out there, under the spot, in his element. The first piece of the night is Shostakovich. Its first movement is a sedate, haunting, almost melodramatic nocturne, but before too long, the concerto changes gear and becomes energetic, discordant, feral. It's lengthy too, a real workout, and much of it is brutally difficult to execute, but he is on form tonight. Close to flawless, and his audience, which he cannot see or hear, seems rapt. 4/5 of the way through the piece, a kind of spell breaks. Something changes in the atmosphere of the auditorium. The temperature in the huge room seems to rise by several degrees. More concerningly and noticeably, the music behind Wheeler begins to trail off. The conductor stops too. Perplexed, Wheeler continues to play for a moment or two, keeping to his own internal time. But after another moment, it becomes clear that something is wrong, something which everybody can see but him. He steals a glance up from his instrument and finds that Lujan is staring at him. In fact, every musician in the orchestra is staring at him, all of them wearing the same expression of stony, barely contained. They've been replaced. The orchestra is gone, all 70 of them. The things which have replaced them are not human, but alien, ill-proportioned pillars of pinkish-brownish flesh. Each has, at its top, a heavy protuberance studded with goopy biological sensors and rubbery openings, and sprouting from the very cap, lengths of various kinds of vile, off-coloured moss. They are draped in black and white fabrics, weirdly cut to either conceal or highlight their blobby, inconsistent body structures. Wheeler reels with fright. He almost falls off the front of the stage. His stomach convulses and he wants to vomit. But a frantic fragment of his brain hasn't panicked yet and tells him, wait, nothing's changed. That's what humans have always looked like, right? What's happening? What's wrong? He glances, petrified, out into the darkness of the audience. The silent energy radiating off them has changed. They've been replaced too, he knows. And they know he hasn't. That's what's wrong. Clutching his violin to his chest, Wheeler stumbles across the stage, past the conductor, towards the wing. As he does, the musicians rise slowly from their seats, letting their own musical instruments drop to one side or the other. Wheeler trips over a cellist's music stand, recovers. The conductor is following him, with the other musicians close behind. Wheeler reaches the wing. There's a pair of stagehands there waiting for him. They have the same placid, angry expressions as everybody else and the same set jaws. Wheeler stops and turns back. His heart feels like it's going to take off. Lujan, or rather the biped which used to be Lujan, walks right up to him. He's a little shorter than Wheeler, but much heavier set. Rooted to the spot, not thinking clearly, Wheeler holds his violin up as if this will shield him. The conductor takes the instrument from his unresisting hands and breaks its neck underfoot, perfunctorily, as if crushing a box for recycling. Wheeler backs off, hands raised. He bumps into the disapproving stagehands who gently and wordlessly try to take hold of his arms. He shakes them off and is just able to twist past them. He dives into the warren of corridors backstage, and then he runs like hell. 4 floors up, in some remote, poorly lit corridor which hasn't seen regular use in years, he finds a bathroom. He goes in, and he throws up. And this makes him feel a lot better. He washes his mouth out and then lights a cigarette, quickly filling the tiny space with a haze of smoke. And that helps too. The adrenaline has run out. His knees are still wobbling from climbing too many stairs. But it doesn't sound like anybody is closely pursuing him, so in this safe moment, he asks himself a very serious question. Did I just have a panic attack? He doesn't know what a panic attack feels like. Having put so much distance between himself and the stage, what happened there feels like a crazed dream, like a paranoid hallucination. But no. Lujan broke his violin. That part definitely happened. He remembers it with distressing clarity. His relationship with Lujan has never been much more than tepidly professional, but the man was a professional. To vandalize a precious instrument like that would be unthinkable for him or anybody in the orchestra. There is something wrong with everybody except him. He flicks his cigarette butt into the toilet. He grips the sink and looks at his reflection, and as his eyes slowly force their way back into focus, he realizes with some alarm that what he is looking at is not his reflection. The mirror above the sink has been sloppily painted over with a tall, black, dripping rectangle, and it is giving off heat. Staring at it is like staring into an open oven, and he can hear a dull, grumbling, mechanical kind of noise coming from behind it, like distant, muffled wood chippers. He exits the bathroom, and he slams the door, and he leans against the far wall, watching the door as if something could very well open it and come after him. There's another one. He suddenly recalls another painted block. This one on the wall in his dressing room, right behind his chair, facing the back of his head. He should have seen it in the mirror whenever he was sitting there, but he didn't. And not only that, there was one in his hotel room. It was painted over the picture hanging over his bed. Did the hotel staff paint it? When? Why? Why is he only remembering this now? The viral video isn't new. Why did he think it was new? It's been circulating for months, for as long as he can remember, forever, and in every venue where he's been on tour, in every city, on windows and billboards, and in small rooms and liminal spaces, people have been painting those doors. There's a second half to each video. He remembers now. He watched it passively over and over and never saw it. Something comes through. It's been leaching into the background of the world this whole time in plain sight, and he never saw it, and it's here now, and he's having a psychotic break. No, that is not what's happening. Something is trying to interfere with the way he thinks. The block symbol is jammed into his mind. He can't dislodge it. He can't think about anything else. He looks back along the narrow corridor down which he just came. The darkness at the far end of it is yet another dark, vertical rectangle. He hears the footsteps of a multitude of people coming from that direction. Not running, just walking briskly enough to harry him. He needs to get out of the building. He needs to get help. Stage door. He takes a confused zigzag route back to street level. There's nobody in his way, and the stage door itself is unattended, and he cracks it open. Night has fallen since the performance began. There's a minor road right outside, behind the concert hall building, a yellow-lit cul-de-sac with a loading bay and some unattended trucks. There's a major road adjoining the minor, rammed with stationary traffic. Some of the vehicles are indeed taxis, but all of them are unoccupied and most have their doors left open. There are colossally tall, darkened figures stalking down the streets, so dark and slender that Wheeler actually fails to notice them. There is screaming. A grotesque, awful screaming coming from many human mouths, coming from somewhere down the main road, but that's the only way he can go. It's everywhere, says his last sane splinter. It's not just the concert hall, it's everyone. As he creeps towards the main road, someone, another occupied former human, pokes their head around the corner, then calls to others in the strange language, pointing him out. Wheeler stops in his tracks. In another moment, 10 or 11 non-people are advancing on him from the road. 2 of them are carrying something with them. A limp, badly broken human, a normal human. Wheeler realizes with some shock. Like him. The victim's winter coat is torn open and his inner clothes are saturated scarlet. When the non-people carrying him catch sight of Wheeler, they toss the man violently aside into the street, where he lands in a pile against a car wheel. He grunts with pain as he lands, face down, and once he comes to rest, he takes a deep breath and lets out an inhuman, traumatized cry. But he doesn't try to move again. The non-people ignore him. Behind him, Wheeler hears the stage door swing open again. He doesn't dare glance back. This can't happen, says that last splinter. This is possible, yes. Real things exist which can do this to the world, but it doesn't happen. There's someone whose job it is to protect us from this. We're supposed to be protected. Someone stops it from happening. Someone steps in at the last minute, but the last minute was a year ago. And she died. Marion. Oh God. Help, he says to nobody. A feeling of weightlessness rises up in his stomach. Gravity seems to upend and pitch him forward into the waiting arms of the non-people. They restrain him. They spend some time debating what to correct first. His eyes or his fingers. Right up until it starts, he's thinking, hoping. Maybe it won't be as bad as all that.
Era Oren.
But it is. They wrestle him to the ground and pin his arm out flat, forcing his fist open to give access to his left index finger. The dread idea is beating on the door of his mind, demanding to be let in. It's wrong. The shape of it is awful, and it's too big and slick with poison, and he knows if he lets it in, it will swamp everything he is, filling his home up with sludge and broken glass. It wants to drown him in it, and he knows it'll replace everything he is with itself. He knows it's taken the rest of the world already and all of the people around him, and he holds out, and he continues to hold out, right up until one of the people pinning him produces a chisel.
Just keep reading.
Overrides everything else. Yes, he says. Yes! He throws the door open. The world is ruined. Beautiful things and smash them or cover them with filth. Find delightful people and disfigure. We who are drowning in and driven by Va, who radiate. They who number in the billions and are for the engine. In the center of the city, where people can be fed in and the door locked. Irreversible. Intact and watching. This last splinter of Adam Wheeler starts to work against that which it knows to be wrong. A ray up there, a narrow, yellow, nourishing sunbeam. He follows it over the top of the walls and out of the city, away from the core. A kind of thread unravels behind him, an infestation. A black slug drops from his tear duct, falls to the asphalt, and shrivels. He regains consciousness on a hard-scrubbed floor in a wide, cool corridor. He is lying against one wall of the corridor, as if tossed there like a rag doll, with his back to the wall and his right arm stretched out, clenched into such a tight fist that his finger joints are hurting. He releases the fist, gasping, disorientated, aching. He rolls and plants his other hand on the floor, and it's then that he discovers what has happened to that hand. He reacts as he must react. He clutches the stubs where his first two fingers were, and he screams and he cries hopelessly at the echoing building, and nobody answers him. The last thing he remembers, he was playing Shostakovich. He was flying through it, unimpeded. In his mind, he can hear what he was playing, note perfect, right up to the instant the memory cuts off, and he can't think of what comes next. Instead, that last incomplete snippet of music goes around and around in his head, abruptly ending mid-note and slowly fading back in again from a few seconds back, an earworm. He can't jolt himself out of it. He's a stock record. He can never play again. He tries to make the right shape with his remaining fingers, and his hand won't do it. He rubs his eyes with his good hand. He feels like garbage. Hungover, dehydrated, he's missing his shirt, and his arms and chest are almost grey with muck. He can never play again. He sits there, huddled for a long while, being small and unhappy and lost. He knows he's going to have to move eventually. He's working his way up to it. He looks up the corridor, eyes gradually recovering. He can see all right without his glasses, as long as he doesn't have to do much reading. He's in a school. There are notice boards, banks of lockers, a rainbow mural. The place is deserted and silent. There is a dull red light coming through the windows in the classroom doors on the far side of the corridor, suggesting that the sun is low on that side of the building, rising or setting. He has taught one-off music lessons in one or two schools, but he does not recognize this one. With some unease, he examines his bad hand. The stumps of his fingers are lumpy and uneven, and they have healed badly. A mass of scar tissue and scabs, and no stitches in sight, as if the digits were removed with great imprecision, hacked off, or bitten off. It troubles him that he can't remember. His memory is normally so sharp and clear. He thinks he's thinking clearly, but when he concentrates and tries to access the lost time, something in that gap pushes him back, a fierce red heat. It occurs to him that though his severed digits have healed very badly, they have healed. They certainly aren't bleeding, although there's a continual ache. How long would that take? How much time has he lost? What the hell happened? Way down the corridor, away from the classrooms, an office door is standing ajar, and in that office, a telephone starts to ring. The office is poky and dimly lit, piled high with paperwork. Two small desks, battered office chairs. He finds the ringing phone and picks up. Hello?
The voice is synthesized. Female. Mr. Wheeler?
Yeah, who's this?
With a measured tone, the robotic voice replies, Mr. Wheeler, you have been sick for an extended period of time. I will be pleased to answer all of your questions soon, but not now. There is a woman in room W16. She is dying.
I'm not a doctor.
I know. There is nothing you can do to save her. Nevertheless, you must go to her. Now.
I feel like I'm not the best person to do that. I'm not in the best place today.
It has to be you.
There is no one else.
Who is she?
There's a pause. It's as if the entity on the other end of the phone is unable to choose her words. She is significant. Go now, please. She does not have much time.
Wheeler is at a loss. He doesn't seem to have the strength to not do what he's told. He doesn't have any other direction to go in. The phone handset is corded, or he'd take it with him. He frets a little about not being able to take it with him. You'll still be here.
Yes.
He leaves the handset off the hook. He goes back along the silent corridor. He finds the door numbered W16 and peeks through the safety glass into the orange-red lit classroom, squinting at the sunlight which floods it from the far windows. It's still not clear to him whether it's dusk or early morning. There is nobody in the classroom that he can see. He opens the door and goes in. There are elaborate, colourful biology posters and coursework displays, desks in disarray, scattered books and felt-tip pens, brightly coloured backpacks. He takes a pace or two up the central aisle, not seeing what he thinks he should be seeing, and turns around, startled. There is a huge chalk sketch on the blackboard, a highly realistic rendering of a woman's head and shoulders. He would swear the board was blank when he walked in. The image is moving. It's as if it's being drawn and erased and redrawn 5 or 10 times per second. The woman looks about his age. Her face is framed with masses of hair, although with the negative colour effect of being drawn in white chalk on a black background, it's difficult to tell what colour her hair ought to be. The one splash of colour comes from the thick, bright blue frames of her glasses. She looks distraught, and she seems to be saying something, and though there is no sound, there is text written beside her.
Adam?
Yes?
I remember everything.
And then the words scrub themselves out and become...
I can't forget a single minute of it.
More lines come out. Each new thing she says erases the old.
I know everything he did now. I was blind and he ran rings around me. I made mistake after mistake. He killed everybody I love, except for you.
After this, her lips stop moving. The last phrase lingers for longer than the others before scrubbing itself blank. Wheeler spends a long moment absorbing the final statement, turning it around, trying to figure out where, if anywhere, it slots into his life. He has never seen this woman before. But is that true? He studies her features and his memory cycles around, and he unearths something deep and significant in his past. A bizarre encounter he hadn't devoted thought to in what feels like a century. Her! That one time at the hospital, remember? You gouged a chunk out of your foot backstage after a show. You spent half a night in the emergency room and she was there and you got talking. God, who was she? That government agent, or at least in that sphere. She was unreal. On a whole other level from me. Tough, skilled, beautiful, sharp like a sapphire. We talked about music, film scores, and the trash which passed for TV sci-fi these days. And David Lynch, it was, well, you don't know that early, but it was promising. But nothing happened. They patched up my foot and we never went anywhere. Did we? Marion, he breathes. He's almost got it. He holds a hand up, fearful as if motioning for her to stop. No, this can't be.
I sent you away because I was trying to save your life.
He remembers. It reconnects all at once. The years upon years of inextricable shared life. There's just too much energy. Crashes through him violently. It's like grabbing a frayed electrical line. It's like being shot. He stumbles backwards, disbelieving. He never imagined how much he was missing. No, Marion.
And it didn't work.
What happened to you? I should have been there.
And he ruined the world. And now you have to live in hell.
Where are you? Someone said you were dying?
I'm already dead. I'm the memory. But now the memory is dying too. He's found his way into heaven, and he's ruining it. Like the earth.
What do you need? I'll stop him. I'll help you. I'll do everything I can. I love you.
She says nothing.
After a moment or two, Wheeler realizes that her image has frozen. He goes up to it and peers at the chalkwork. Hesitantly, with his right hand, he reaches out to the heavy chalk shading of her hair, and he touches it with one finger. He leaves a dark dot. Chalk dust is real, on the board and on his finger. She's just a drawing. She's gone. It's all gone. He blacks out. He regains consciousness on a hard-scrubbed floor at the front of a school classroom. He is lying there as if tossed beneath the blackboard like a rag doll, one arm stretched out along the wall. He rolls over, gasping, and plants his other hand on the floor, and it's then that he discovers what's happened to that hand. "Oh dear God," he says, staring uncomprehending at the mangled stubs. In a strange, abstract way, the loss of his first two fingers just doesn't connect with him. It's as if he woke up already accepting it. What the hell happened? He compares his left hand with his right, which mercifully is pristine. He flexes them, mirroring the action as best he can. There could be a little nerve damage in his left hand. He'll have to talk to his specialist, but he should be able to wield a bow. I suppose I'm playing left-handed from now on, he says to himself. Good God, how long is it going to take him to get to the same level of proficiency? Good while. He thinks back. The last thing he can remember is playing Shostakovich. He was flying through it and he was having no trouble. He can almost hear what he was playing, note perfect, right up to the instant the memory abruptly cuts off. But he can't think of what came next. Instead, that final snippet fades in again from a few seconds back, repeats itself right up to the cutoff point and stops, almost with an audible click. It's an earworm. He feels like a stuck record. So he does what he always does, hums a different song to displace it. He feels strange. He is hungover, dehydrated. He's missing his shirt and his arms and chest are almost grey with muck, and he is dying, positively dying for a cigarette. But he feels strangely upbeat, as if he's recovered from a prolonged illness. As if the worst is over. He gets up, eyes gradually recovering. He can see all right without his glasses, as long as he doesn't have to do much reading. The classroom is silent, lit red-orange from a sun which could be rising or setting. There are elaborate, colourful biology posters and coursework displays, desks in disarray, scattered books and felt-tip pens, brightly coloured backpacks. The blackboard is blank. Wheeler has taught one-off music lessons in one or two schools, but he doesn't immediately recognise this one. Way down the corridor from the classroom, an office door is standing ajar. In that office, a telephone starts to ring. The office is poky and dimly lit, piled high with paperwork. There are two small desks, each with a beaten-up office chair. Each desk has a phone, one of which is off its hook. He puts it back, obeying a hard-wired instinct to tidy up. It's the other phone which is ringing, though, of course. Hello?
The voice is synthesized, female. Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, who's this?
With a measured tone, the robotic voice replies, Before we begin, may I ask you a quick question? Does the name Marion Hutchinson mean anything to you?
Not as such. Should it?
The synthesized voice makes it impossible to tell whether the caller is dismayed at this, indifferent, or relieved. No. My name is Ulrich. I'm part of an organization called the Foundation. The objective of the Foundation was to prevent what has happened from happening.
Wheeler turns around, suddenly afraid, but there is nothing behind him. And what, he says with some trepidation, has happened?
The world has gone to hell, Mr. Wheeler.
Well, bad luck there.
There is a long pause. Long enough that Wheeler wonders to what insane degree he might have misunderstood its situation. Yes, very bad luck. Mr. Wheeler, we need your help. And by we need your help, I mean I need your help. Because there is no one left of the Foundation but me. And I have no one but you. And I am dying.
I'm very sorry to hear that, Miss Ulrich, Wheeler says. He finds that he means it. He chooses his next words with some care. What do you need?
I need you to find a man named Bartholomew Hughes. Please take a seat. I will explain everything. Go ahead and read the chat.
Unthreaded.
Marion Wheeler used strong domestic medication nearly every day of her life. Among the identity warriors of Mobile Task Force WO, Ara Arun, it was never in doubt that on the occasion of her death, she would ascend into the new sphere. She would become a Beta Ramjan infomorphic entity, or a Type 6 volitional spiritual apparition, or a ghostie, or however she wished to describe her new form. Then she would join the citizens of heaven and continue the Antimemetics Division's fight from higher ground, likely with fearsome effectiveness. But Wheeler died under terrible circumstances. The Class Z drug which killed her did more than reinforce her memory. It destroyed her ability to do anything but remember. She ascended, arriving in the new sphere to a hero's welcome. But what arrived was an ideoform so severely brain damaged that it was barely able to communicate. After she was made as comfortable as possible and an initial diagnosis had been made, Sanchez offhandedly described her as a Swiss watch filled with glue. Omega Zero, thanks. Ulrich yelled at him for saying it and would have hit him for his callousness. How can she make it to heaven sick? She said. Isn't that just hell? The director apologized in the corporate false way in which he always apologized for anything. How much more does she have to go through? Ulrich said. Who deserves this life? It hurt all of them. Regardless of personal investment in the mission, it was difficult not to care for someone whom they had watched and guarded for years. They continued to take care of her in the same way they always had, in shifts. Wheeler, dimly aware of her condition, worked against the problem in the instinctive, fierce way she worked against every problem. She slowly became more coherent, but never became herself again. Ulrich, on her shifts, saw that Wheeler spent most of her existence reliving her final moments over and over. She would recite what seemed to be half of a conversation with SCP-3125 itself, a conversation which several of Omega Zero said they recognized from Operation Cold City. Ideas can be killed. Marion, Ulrich asked her gently, where is Bart Hughes? He's the only one who can stop this now. We know he's alive, or he'd be here with us. Just a hint, just a clue, please. She was trying. Ulrich knew she was trying to say, I don't know. I can't remember something I never knew in the first place. But all she could manage was, with better ideas.
Do you want me to take Sanchez?
Go ahead.
Keep pushing her.
Sanchez told Ulrich when she reported back to him.
At least once per shift.
The questioning is causing her considerable distress. We know she doesn't know anything. It's cruel to keep trying. Sir.
SCP-3125 is coming. With the quick arm of the Antimemetics Division eliminated, there is nothing left which can stop it. Our real-world investigative capabilities are negligible. Hugh's sister doesn't know anything, and this is our sole remaining lead. I know you admire Wheeler more than anyone.
She mentored me. She drove me to be the best person I have ever been. She honored my memory when I died. My own family wouldn't.
Ulrich.
We are the saints who guard. I will guard her.
Sanchez, you go.
Sanchez paused. Ulrich's devotion to Wheeler and the... no, this is you.
Sanchez paused.
There we go.
Ulrich's devotion to Wheeler, the lesser devotion of the others, irked him mildly. He viewed Wheeler as, well, competent enough, but ultimately a failure. She was as much of a failure as everybody else in the division, with only the uninteresting distinction of being the last of the failures. But he was vulnerable to the kind of rhetoric Ulrich had just employed. It stoked a kind of fire inside him. Heaven knew he used it in his own communications often enough for exactly the same purpose. All right. The trawl in reality is continuing. There's a faint chance we'll find something of substance. Carry on as you were, no questions.
SCP-3125 incarnated the following winter. Its first act upon arrival, or depending on the degree of intelligence agency you ascribe to it, the first side effect of its arrival, was the neutralization of the Foundation. In the space of a night, an international staff of tens of thousands disappeared into oblivion, or became amnesiac, or simply dropped brain dead where they were standing. Foundation sites became hollow, inaccessible dead zones. A few anomalies broke containment in the chaos to devastating effect. Thousands of others were choked into irrelevant obscurity beneath 3125's antimemetic pressure. The world can only end one way, it seemed to be declaring, gouging its statement into the flesh of reality. My world. My way. 3125 had skirmished with Omega Zero before, but it had always been unclear how much information about Omega Zero it retained between skirmishes. In fact, it was unclear, fundamentally speaking, how 3125 thought at all. Its behavior was inconsistent, unpredictable, and frightening. Records of its activities were cognitohazards, discouraging close analysis. In the end, the question proved to be academic. When 3125 arrived, whether it knew Omega Zero was there or not, it took no special action against it, and had no need to. Most of Omega Zero's members, anchors, were foundationers, or foundation adjacent. With those people's minds blown away in the first strike, the dense web of mutual memory which had held the task force together since its formation tore loose. More than half of the task force was cast into the void and died. The final real death they had evaded for years. Around dawn, Eastern Standard Time, Sanchez announced that it was no longer possible for Omega Zero to stay together as a single entity. He split the remains of the task force into three. Ulrich and the malformed memory of Wheeler were assigned to the same sub-team. Sanchez gave final instructions to continue the search for Bart Hughes or any kind of ally among the living, be they Foundation or GOI or civilian. But the instructions were confusing and incomplete. It was because Sanchez didn't have an iota of faith in what he was saying. He couldn't see a way to the far side of this. It was about little more than survival now. It was about figuring out terms on which to face death. Ulrich never saw him again. She fled, with Wheeler and the others in their little sub-team, across the space of a new sphere which was rapidly becoming uninhabitable. The world was warping around 3125's presence at the very core of human thought, like real space around a black hole. It was building things, real physical artifacts, in the center of cities. It was extruding them as if from spores, monumental concrete structures into which people were being fed in dizzying numbers. It was difficult to know what was happening inside of the structures. Some of the millions were dying in there, some weren't. Ulrich didn't look. They found out the ugly way, that it was dangerous to look closely. The sub-team was steadily running out of anchors. It could have been a systemic purge, but it could have just as easily have been simple statistics. Roving physical and psychic anomalies, vast in their own right, enslaved to 3125, were combing the earth, stripping it of objectors and feeding them into 3125's maw. Ulrich's own anchor, a woman who had never known what the Foundation was, but who remembered Ulrich with a heavy heart nearly every day, was killed around that time, found in the hills where she'd been hiding and dragged down into the inferno. Ulrich wasn't looking. She didn't find out until it was too late. She felt the thread of memory come loose and followed it, panicking past its flapping end and down into physical reality where there was nothing. A collapsed tent, a scuffed out fire pit where everything important had been piled up and burnt. Who was she? Another Omega Zero operative asked her. Ulrich had never spoken about it. I only knew her for 2 days, when I was younger. She saved my life. That's all. This was it, she realized. She was a career foundationer, an experienced mobile task force operative, for God's sake. She had gone through unimaginable horrors and stacked them up as experience and kept going. But this, Julia's tent and silence and no Julia, was the worst thing she'd ever seen. Short of hope and resources, the sub-team had to split again, this time into pairs. Ulrich stayed with Wheeler, clinging to her like a rock, remembering her and being remembered in turn. A cooperating pair could survive untethered for a little while, but not forever. They found shelter on a distant edge of the noosphere, in a clutch of arcane structures left there millennia earlier by a long-dead human culture. They were followed, though they didn't realize. One night, Wheeler managed to talk. She said, "Adam." It was the first thing she had managed to say, which wasn't a direct quote from her own expiring moments. Ulrich was shocked by this. You remember him? The sentence came out agonizingly slowly, as if each syllable was like climbing a mountain. I remember everything. Ulrich stared. She knew that Class Z nestics made it impossible for the subject to forget. She also knew that they could cause long-erased memories to reassert themselves. Some of them, anyway, depending on the mechanism and intensity of the erasure process. She had hoped that Wheeler's memories of her husband were permanently gone, because she knew they ended in a terrible place. I don't know where Adam is, she had to tell Wheeler. It was the truth. Nobody did. Omega Zero operatives had, with some solemnity, observed the erasure of Adam Wheeler's mind. But out of respect for Marion's decision and to preserve Adam's safety, they had intentionally diverted their attention during his relocation, destroying their records. He might be alive, I don't know. She didn't know which alternative was worse. Daisy, Wheeler said. Look. She was holding something in her hands, a pitiful glowing ideoform, a thought of someone. It was him. Ooh, shoot. I forgot about ad breaks. There's one that's going to run now. We have to pause. I'm sorry, everybody. Take a breath. She's holding the ideoform. We'll come right back to it after capitalism has occurred. I'm sorry.
now I'm remembering the demolished man. Oh gosh. Okay, so we're gonna go back a little bit. Here we go.
Daisy, Wheeler said. Look. She was holding something in her hands, a pitiful glowing idea form, a thought of someone. It was him. A thread of memory which led right to him. It was some kind of miracle, it had to be, that Wheeler had picked him out from the livid, insensate mass of victims which now formed 3125's core. He was nearly unrecognizable. He was overrun with 3125. At first glance, it seemed to occupy every nerve in his body. But there was a flickering seed in the back of his mind, a final remnant of what he had once been. It wasn't growing. There was too much pressure. But it was trying to. He was pushing back. Ulrich boggled. She had known that there was something weird and highly rare about the way Adam Wheeler's mind was structured, a kind of thick-skulled resistance to external interference. In fact, she knew that thousands and thousands of people in the world shared that immunity. But that was another way of saying that among billions, such people were fantastically rare and difficult to locate. Efforts by Omega Zero to locate them and recruit them as allies had failed. They did not look special or behave radically different from others. There was no signal flare that went up. It was possible they were all dead. It was conceivable that Adam Wheeler was the only one of them left in the whole world. But he was left. He was alive. I see him, Ulrich responded. Wheeler did not. I'll get him out of there. Her stomach was knotting up with the sheer thought of attempting it. I'll bring him to you. Wheeler didn't respond. 6 original, coherent words had exhausted her. She was crazed with frustration at how incapable she had become. She felt as if she was pinned beneath a huge lead block of memory. It hurt to think. It hurt to exist. Ulrich's ability to interact with the physical universe was extremely limited. Other operatives of Omega Zero had been able to create full-on poltergeist activity, changing the temperature of rooms and throwing furniture around. But she was not that kind of specialist. She could do little more than place phone calls and write on walls. Those abilities weren't likely to get Adam Wheeler moving. Simple words were never going to reach him. The man wasn't even truly conscious. What Ulrich could do was something the task force dubbed identity offense. She could interfere with the internals of living minds to make things happen. Usually enemies, usually the mental equivalent of blunt force trauma to make them die, but she could act with surgical precision if it was called for. Operating on Adam Wheeler was difficult and time-consuming. His mind was tough, and it was continually bathed in 3125's radioactive presence. Ulrich would cut, and then wait as Wheeler's mind self-healed, which took days, and then she would cut again. The seedling metaphor served well. If nothing else, the whole procedure took real-time weeks. The patience required to keep her hands off for days at a time was nearly inhuman. Wheeler said nothing else in that time. She was conserving energy. It felt as if she had a finite number of words left in her, and speaking each one brought her an inch closer to the end. She had to wait. He'll be here, Ulrich said. Soon. Now Ulrich watches from a great abstract distance as Adam Wheeler folds up. Marion Wheeler is dead. Finally, truly dead. And Adam Wheeler's mind is breaking apart. It's an awful and incredible thing to watch. Even passing into the maw of 3125 and back wasn't enough to permanently break him. But this was it, the silver bullet. This was the way to hurt Adam Wheeler in such a way that he would never recover. Present his wife to him, a brain damaged wreck, just in time for her to die. Ulrich writes on the blackboard, off to one side so as not to mar the image of Marion, and in different handwriting. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Adam, please come back to the phone. I need your help.
Adam is prostrate on the floor and becoming catatonic. He doesn't hear it when Ulrich tries calling the other office phone, the one on the other desk.
And she too was dying now. She and Marion were anchoring one another as best they could, but it's the end of the line. She has, perhaps, hours. All right, she says to no one. There is no one left. She rolls up her figurative sleeves. This will not be too difficult for her. Adam Wheeler's revived memories of his wife shine inside him, and around the edge she can see the faint scar where they were burnt out the first time. She has a better vantage point. She can do a cleaner, more permanent job. This will hurt, just as much as it did then.
I need her, Adam says. He's still face down. Don't take her, please.
Ulrich writes, You need to save the world. There's nobody else.
Adam doesn't look up, but he says, to hell with the world. It can burn. He recovers a second time. He's fine, upbeat, game. He's eager to get moving.
She explains everything she can, tersely, just the keywords. The foundation, the antimemetics division, the situation, the objective. He absorbs it all surprisingly well. He asks cogent follow-up questions, which is always a positive sign.
This thread of memory which was sustaining you, don't I count? I'll remember you.
Your memory could be strong enough, but you just don't know me well enough.
Yeah, that's regrettable.
Ulrich tells him in detail how to find Site 41. It's going to be an immense trek, made significantly longer by Wheeler's need to avoid urban areas. She describes the antimemetic shroud, which obscures Site 41 and most other Foundation sites. A shroud she and the rest of Omega Zero found to be totally impenetrable. A shroud which Wheeler, if he prepares himself, may be able to walk straight through. She warns him about the psychotic hurricane-like anomalies and the violent roaming agglomerations of 3125 occupied non-humans. She describes a few techniques for avoiding their attention. She decides not to voice her private hope that, as a recent escapee from 3125's interior, Wheeler will still smell right to them and be able to pass. She doesn't want him becoming overconfident and incautious. She explains basic survival skills.
I hike, I camp, Wheeler says. Still, he has never hiked or camped in an occupied foreign world. He has never gone months without electricity and plumbing. They find that they have plenty to talk about. They are on the phone for long enough that Adam notices that the red sun outside the office window isn't moving. It hasn't risen. It hasn't set. Either the world stopped turning completely, or the thing hanging out there isn't the sun.
Unknown, Ulrich has to tell him. There was a foundation which could answer this question once.
Seems like this foundation had the world's better interests at heart.
In heaven, Ulrich laughs weakly. The foundation was never so simple.
Miss Ulrich, I sense we're coming to the end of our time together.
Yes.
The odds stacked against you were tremendous, but you saved my life. And the odds stacked against me are, well, appalling, but significantly better, thanks to you. I'll do my level best, and I will remember you, even if it doesn't make a difference.
Kill this thing, Mr. Wheeler. When you get the chance, don't hesitate.
Aye.
And at the same time, someone behind Ulrich laughs sharply once. She turns. There's a man there, standing with her in the new sphere. A gaunt, younger man with an awful, open-mouthed grin. He has been waiting, silently and excitedly, for an unknowable amount of time for Ulrich to notice him. And now that she does, he gets everything he could possibly want from her reaction. A rush of delectable horror and alarm. Then he cuts her off, killing her instantly, before she can get one syllable of warning to Wheeler.
Wheeler hears nothing. A faint click, and then a dial tone. He hangs up.
And that's where we'll end it for this week.
Oh, that chapter is brutal.
Getting serious.
I'm exactly there with KDB with, wait a minute, not even death was enough? Right? I mean, you're like, of course they've set up institutions in heaven. Okay, fine, altered states, I get that, and it's not enough.
It is the offhand reference to it being higher ground that
Yes.
I really like.
That is such a 50s militaristic mindset, isn't it? Is it, we'll just take the highest high ground. Thank you. Ooh.
Yeah, that's... I won't say that's as dark as it gets. I think it might be.
It's pretty close. I can think of one more particular thing that I still know is coming that is like, whoa! But, so...
Oh!
These chapters cross over into a storyline created by a different SCP contributor. The Omega Zero people are from that other storyline. I love it.
Interesting.
Because it's such a good, like, it is such a classic spin-off group, honestly. It's like, where are we going? Well, we're dead, chaps. I guess we'll go colonize heaven. You know, it's just such a mentality. Exactly like that.
And it fits in perfectly. They don't feel like they've come in from a different story. They just feel like another asset that has been put on this fucking horrifying job.
It's why the model of SCP as being this whole web of different organizations with different focuses is so compelling, is because it gives you so much room to go. But yes, we will absolutely, positively need some shenanigans now.
Yes, we
for
will.
the end of the evening. Do I have a voice lift? No. For those of you who are all like I am, tension, apprehension, and dissension has begun. You're all welcome. You'll all be earwormed like I am for the rest of the night. The storyline was written in parallel with this part of Antimemetics, and I agreed to have the storylines cross over. And this last chapter was the result. It's really
fantastic.
Good. It does. It just is like, oh, it got worse. Oh, it keeps getting worse. Oh, dear God. I know. Tensor said the tensor. I know. For folks who don't know, we're talking about The Demolished Man by Alfred Bester. And yes, the Babylon 5 character Bester, played by Walter Coing, i.e. Chekhov, is named after this book. And it is a fantastic... The premise of the book is a fantastic thought experiment, which is, how do you commit murder in a society of telepathics? And what Wendy and I have stuck in our heads is the literal answer. The guy gets away with murder with a meme. He gets this meme stuck in people's heads in such a way that it disrupts telepathy. It's a brilliant book. It's one of those...
So that's one of the things Jemison was riffing on in her Green Lantern series.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
It's not like the first science fiction story about memes, but it is one of the oldest, best well-known ones. And it absolutely influences the telepathy core in Bab 5.
Yeah.
So having the character named Bester is just like a chef's kiss of a thing. I'm sorry, Wendy. I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry.
No,
right.
You're not sorry.
Shall we do something sweet and fluffy and involving the Prats before we go to bed for the evening?
Bear in mind, I've read this before, and I go to the point where, the pleasant dead commando is like, well, Gotta lobotomize him again. Here we go.
Yes, I know. I know. How dare, right? SCP Foundation loves building on previous works. I still remember the look on my face when I realized 3125 was the being referenced in 6820. Yeah. And it's not fair for Mom to get food from the party for her and not for Ruthie. Poor
Ruthie has never been fed for 100 years.
Exactly. Poor Ruthie has never been fed in her whole entire life. Now, where is my shenanigans button? Because we need shenanigans for sure. All right. If Adam had any point of reference, he might realize there's not much of his mind left. You know,
the way it's done with the injury and how you see the traumatic realization, and you see after Ulrich has worked him a little bit, and it's less, and how the traumatic realization maps to the scarring, and as the wound heals, his acceptance of it, even though he's coming to it the first time, he thinks, is moved further along. And you've done that incredible thing where on the page you can see that he is all the time going, something is very not right. But he can't touch it. He can't articulate.
No, that was one of my favorite descriptions about how it was like looking into an oven and the heat of it would push him back. I loved that. Yeah. Poor Adam. You know what Adam needs?
Shenanigans.
Adam needs a road trip. I think Adam should take a nice, long, Forrest Gump-esque journey of self-discovery across a blasted heath of wasteland. Sounds about right?
Across a good chunk of the planet, I seem to remember.
At least at the very least, the continent. I think he does a great deal of walking coming up here next. Yes, exactly. Spoilers! Right, exactly. All right, but quick. Let us do something nicer. Something shenanigans.
Previously on Ask an Exec.
Previously on shenanigans. I love how long this shenanigan has been running. Where are my buttons? There we go. Let's do some shenanigans, shall we? Right. We are continuing the ever delightful Ask an Executive with Kokai!
Kokai!
Kokai, no!
Kokai, yes!
Kokai, no! Yes, precisely. So we are on Chapter 4. We are starting on the 1st of April, 2018, which I doubt is the intention of Shiny Opals, but what to do in the aftermath of a significant disagreement. This is an update from a frequent flyer. If you've not read any of the Cult Guy saga, then click here to go through his tag. Without that context, you may be missing vital information.
Dear Abigail, thank you for answering my last email, and I hope you and your readers are well. In what is some unexpectedly good news, Dahlia has been rescued and is now one of us once more. At least I think she's one of us. She never actually worked for us. She was working for Eli and also for her own ends, but the impression I get is that she intends to stay here now, since Basima is here. She is not well, following her captivity. I don't know if I can really consider myself her manager, but I don't know if I can really consider myself anyone's manager at this point. I am, however, the head of the department, and she is somewhat a member of my team, for what it's worth. I'm emailing because my relationship with Dahlia has been complex. Well, that's not true. It's been extremely simple. She nearly killed me and left me with a scar on my throat that I cannot avoid seeing every day in the mirror. During this recent rescue, she confessed to me that she had planned to kill me properly had she not been incapacitated following our mission in August. The reasoning for this is what I consider the complexity, cult-related reasons. They make sense, I suppose, if I force myself to be detached about it. Since our return, she's been primarily with Basima, and I don't believe she intends to do me harm now. And of course, that's good news. That's fantastic. It would have been extremely unfortunate to conduct a rescue and then get murdered at the end. However, it's also a bit awkward. I don't know how to deal with a Dahlia who's grateful to me, a Dahlia who doesn't hate me or threaten me or regard me with suspicion, but also one who's been through what she's been through. I only experienced a fraction of what she had during the rescue, and it was awful. We spent 3 days with only each other, but we're not friends. I suppose now we have an understanding. We went through something the others didn't, and good Lord, I have no idea what to do with that. She and Basima were always such a pair. A pair. But Basima has her own things going on at the moment. Have you got any advice as to what I should do with this relationship? Yours, Cult Guy.
I just turn out a little bit there. I wrote back to Cult Guy and I asked, one, if Dahlia's attempts and plots on his life had anything to do with his fear for his life in his earlier 2016 emails, and two, why he believes he is now safe from her attempts on his life. He replied,
1. No, absolutely not. That was a completely different threat that was resolved around the time Eli murdered someone and blamed me in early 2017.
Did you just read that sentence you wrote out loud, John? My God.
Ironically, Dahlia's first attempt on my life was related to that. I was a fugitive and she was tracking me. And it was only Eli's confession and subsequent blackmail that convinced her to cease her hunt. 2. It's hard to put into words exactly without giving up too much of either myself or her. It's not simply that she's grateful for the rescue, or that she's currently too physically unwell to do much murdering, although both of those are true, but it's that in the time we spent together during the rescue, she decided not to do that anymore. I understand, from an external point of view, it may sound like I'm pinning my hopes on something meaningless, but it was a strange time. We said things we may not otherwise have said. I believe her intent to be true.
Dear Cult Guy, as ever, I have a few concerns that I'm not quite sure how to put into words without derailing the entire process of answering your email and providing the advice you've asked for. I am relieved to hear from you, alive and well, and I am relieved to hear that a member of your team who was previously in danger has been rescued. I am less relieved to hear that the team member has historically been a specific danger to your life. I don't know if you need me to spell this out for you, but this is not a typical workplace issue that you should have to deal with. In addition, I may be making some incorrect assumptions, but it sounds like whatever control your cult maintains over you, it presumably does not have over Dahlia herself, so there may be no reasons you can pursue a more conventional approach to this. My advice, therefore, would involve contacting the authorities to press criminal charges and applying for a restraining order. In any other case, I suggest considering resigning. I urge you to think about the possibility of these, even if resignation is still out of reach for you. You say Dahlia is not actually working for you, so I don't see any reason why you shouldn't pursue this criminally. Hello to whoever the doggo is. If you were certain that a criminal case is not an option for you, then I urge you to consider your own safety as a first priority. It sounds as though you believe she won't make an attempt on your life again, and I don't want to say you're definitely wrong, but you may be. Are you willing to gamble your life on that? Some things I'd consider. Since she's not a member of your organization, if you have security, you may wish to ask them to revoke whatever pass or access she has. Frankly, given what's happened to you over the past few years, you should be letting members of the public into your building. If that's not possible or doesn't work, you should avoid being alone with her as a priority. Work from home where you can. And if not, involve your other colleagues and make sure there's someone available. Keep your phone under some sort of panic button. You might want to consider pepper spray or some sort of equivalent, depending on what's legal in your jurisdiction. Please note you'll need to check this out yourself. I'm not a lawyer. I appreciate you feared for your life before, so some of this will be familiar to you, and I want to stress that self-defense is not my area of expertise. Please do your own research here. In terms of your relationship with her, I would strongly recommend polite, professional, and above all, distant. Don't be openly rude. Accept any gratitude, as it sounds like you were a significant part of the rescue operation. Congratulations on that, by the way. But don't try to get closer.
Cult guy. Oh, it wasn't really a rescue operation as such. I just had an idea and I decided to do it. I'm honestly not quite sure how we survived.
You work as security or something, OP?
Good lord, no, I'd be terrible at that. I have to stand around with nothing to occupy my mind. It would start to wander, so any sort of standing guard would inevitably involve me forgetting what I was doing and either zoning out or wandering off. Plus, I've never been one for physical action of any sort. I'd rather keep to my books, thank you.
Do you even lift, bro?
Very funny. No.
The point I was trying to get at is, are you even remotely trained for running rescue missions?
It wasn't exactly a run-in, guns blazing sort of situation. I am unfortunately uniquely qualified for cult reasons.
That's just starting to sound like some BS you're saying every time you don't want to explain yourself.
With all due respect, I don't know anyone any particular explanations of these events. If I was some sort of Bruce Willis-style action hero, perhaps I wouldn't have spent most of the past year in a coma. Dahlia's survival nearly killed us both.
Hey, no offense meant, but I am mostly trying to get at, should you be doing this stuff alone? Surely there must be someone with training, like an ex-Navy SEAL you can hire or something.
My departmental budget does not quite stretch to hiring mercenaries. Frankly, whether you believe it or not, there are specific reasons why it had to be me.
I think it's super cool that you're doing this, OP. Dahlia must be swooning.
I sincerely hope she's not. Oh, and thank you for the advice. Now that you have written it, I can see why the logical suggestions would be to avoid someone who has attempted to murder me once and subsequently plotted to finish the job.
Cult guy dude, I love you, man, but I am smashing my head against my desk. I'm glad to hear that. I appreciate your job/life. Situation is extremely abnormal, but I'm growing somewhat concerned your sense of what is normal or acceptable has been extremely thrown off balance by what you've been dealing with. And in the interest of full disclosure, I ought to perhaps say the same thing about my own advice to you. I try to temper it with what I know applies to you, but that does occasionally leave me wondering if I'm missing something obvious. Maybe there is a way to resign that you don't know about, and I won't suggest because I've stopped suggesting resignation. Please do regularly take the opportunity to talk to those you know outside of your place of employment.
Thank you, Abigail. I have always been grateful for the sense check that your words provide, even if the advice you supply is not often actionable. I think it helps me recalibrate my sense of normality, as you have put it.
Right, Wendy?
Unfortunately, working full-time for a cult for several years is not entirely conducive to many long-term external attachments. So I value yours and your commenter's input significantly.
Oh, hey, buddy. We're always sending you hugs.
You know, if you need to chat about more normal things, there's the weekly off-topic posts. We try to avoid work talk. Lots of books and movie recs and that sort of thing. Thank you. I have been known to read those threads, although I've never commented. I don't have much time to do many non-work related things these days, but it's always nice to see familiar names.
Well, feel free to say hi, even if that's all you've got to say.
Thank you. I'll think about it.
I can be your normal friend.
Hey, OP, I'm honestly glad you're still writing in, even if your letters are a lot nonsensical at times. I've not been exactly where you are, but growing up I had a whole lot of stuff I'd rather not drag out into the open here, and having other people who were there for me was the only way I got out. I don't know if a non-comments in a blog are the best way, but if we help, then I'm glad for it. If there's anything you can do closer to home, whether it's therapy or hobby groups or anything, please try and do it, no matter how hard it seems. But if just writing in here is all you can manage right now, that's enough. Thank you. You're kinder than I deserve. I'm glad you got out of your situation. Not to keep making comments, but to confirm pepper spray is illegal here, so are guns and most knives. And even if they weren't, I don't have any particular fantasy of being able to take on anyone larger than a 5-year-old. I am an academic, not a wrestler.
God, I'm glad I'm American.
And I'm extremely glad I'm not.
Do you really feel that safe around this Dahlia?
I don't feel particularly safe around her at all. Nonetheless, I believe her.
Jesus, buddy, I'm worried for you.
That's very kind. However, of all the reasons I worry for my life, this doesn't even break the top 10.
OMFG. Okay.
The aftermath of overindulging in alcohol with colleagues.
April 16th, 2018.
What is it we're talking about? Oh, we're talking about an animal. This is an email from a regular poster. If the name Cult Guy doesn't mean much to you, I'd recommend checking out his tag. It's a long read at this point, but there's a lot of context for why his workplace isn't quite like yours or mine. Today's email is about a fairly mundane question and answer, so you can ignore the specifics about his relationship with Dahlia, Basiva, Marvin, and Melody. You can likely read without all that history whatsoever.
Dear Abigail, this one is a bit embarrassing. I've not been having a good year, as you might be able to tell. I've not been having a good 3 years, if I want to be more accurate. Yesterday afternoon, Dahlia informed me that she was fed up with me moping, an unjust sentiment. I was working, and dragged me out for drinks. I was paying, she was ordering. I don't remember much after 6 p.m. Unfortunately, today I am forced to reckon with both the physical evidence and Dahlia's memory of a number of events. 1. 4 calls that he did not pick up, 2 voicemails, 6 texts, and 1 email, all from me to Marvin, many of which weren't particularly coherent, but all of which contained the same general sentiment. Maudlin. Personal. 2. 1 pair of Dahlia's shoes that I vomited on and now need to replace. 3. Waking up sharing a bed with Dahlia, while Basima, who may be Dahlia's romantic partner they have never clarified and I have never asked, looked down at me judgmentally. 1 pair of Basima's shoes that I vomited on and now need to replace. Is there a way to come back from this, professionally speaking? Kind regards, Cold Guy.
Dear Cult Guy, I had to go back to our last email exchange to make sure I wasn't misremembering things. To confirm, Dahlia is in fact the person who tried to kill you twice, who you described your relationship with as awkward and complex, and who should probably be criminally charged for cutting your throat? That Dahlia? I'm not entirely sure why I'm going to the effort of clarifying, as I'm sure you're about to answer yes. Alright, to address your question and momentarily ignore the issue of attempted murder, assault, whatever crime has specifically been committed in the past, coming back from, as you put it, making a drunken fool of yourself with work colleagues can be incredibly difficult in a standard professional environment. Even if your drinking/activities were done after hours or off the clock, the memories of your co-workers tend to be long. You yourself know what it is to be the subject of gossip and how unpleasant it can be. This sort of behavior is likely to become a similar topic of conversation, and to be blunt, there's not much you can do about it. In some organizations, it's a bigger risk than others. In some places, you can be subject to disciplinary action, and in others, the worst that can happen is the aforementioned gossip. If you work for a particularly dysfunctional organization with a culture that encourages drinking, you may, in this case, be lucky. Your story may just become one of the many, or even a badge of pride. The morning after is, however, still likely to be a humiliating experience, unless you're in a position where you feel you can shake it off. It sounds as though you aren't, or you weren't sure. You obviously cannot go back in time and prevent this from happening, but going forward, do please keep your drinking to 1 or 2 drinks below what your personal tolerance would be. And if you've recently been drunk at a work event, I'd usually recommend avoiding even the appearance of tipsiness for the foreseeable future. In order to deal with the aftermath of this specific evening, I would recommend a quick, sincere apology to your colleagues with a commitment to not do it again in the future and, as you've already identified, replacing any property that you damaged. I assume, given our previous correspondence, you're not at any particular risk of disciplinary action, so at this point I don't see any particular reason to involve anyone senior to yourself. Also, as I understand it, Dahlia is not your direct employee, so if you feel you've taken on a managerial role with her, you may wish to check in with her that your sharing sleeping space didn't make her uncomfortable. On the plus side, Appears she had multiple opportunities to attempt to murder you again and made the active choice not to. So apparently you may have been right to trust her, which is a relief. Seeing as you put yourself in an extremely vulnerable position, I don't recommend repeating it.
Oh man, on the plus side, at least this is a relatively normal problem for OP. Who among us hasn't had one or two, or a few too many, and made a fool of ourselves at work?
I certainly haven't.
Yeah, holy shit, I would never. I'm completely teetotal at work. Drive some people up the wall, they keep trying to make me drink.
Oh, I hate that. I have the odd glass here or there, but to some people that's definitely not enough. Milton Castle.
I wear a hijab, and I still get people asking if I'd like a drink sometimes. I've stopped going to work socials.
I know, I was sick on a train once.
Oh, that's disgusting. I hope you cleared it up.
Are you joking? I got off at the next station and prayed nobody would ever remember me.
Ha! And I thought my table dancing was bad.
OMG, I haven't danced on the table, but some particularly raunchy dancing netting me a hookup with one of the admin department.
Oh no.
Oh god, I would resign.
Nope. We had to work together for the next 9 months until I found another job.
I've done okay, but my manager once accidentally dropped a glass of red all over me. She still hasn't paid me back for that blouse either.
Rude. I'd have claimed that on expenses.
Oh, I wish she'd have killed me.
Thank you, as ever. Dahlia certainly doesn't seem uncomfortable with me. I think after what happened, our experience during her rescue, I mean not the drunken night out, she is glad of the company. I find myself not ungrateful for hers. I have a follow-up question, if I may. Your advice was simple enough to understand, but I don't know if I ought to approach or send an apology to Marvin. He has made clear he does not wish for me to contact him, and I am doing my best to honor that, but unfortunately, in my inebriated state, I obviously reached out to him repeatedly. On the one hand, I should like to apologize. On the other, I can't help but feel that would be a further violation of his boundaries.
Jeez, OP, what happened between you guys?
He does not wish to speak to me, as I said.
No, but were you thinking of, like, dating? Or, like, BFFs? Like, did you fight?
Pratt has recruited him. To be a member of Pratt's cult is to commit to extremely limited contact to those outside of the cult.
But can't you get him out? Why did he even join?
I believe he has his own plan to work against Pratt. It requires him to abide by Pratt's rules, and for me to trust him.
Don't most cults discourage people from talking to people outside the cult?
I suppose so. With ours, they have never been forbidden, but if I'm honest, I cannot imagine maintaining close friendships outside of the cult, given all that's happened.
Hey, OP, it's my pleasure. With regards to Marvin, I think in this particular circumstance, unless he reaches out to you, you should avoid contacting again, even to apologize. He set a boundary, you ignored it while drunk. I understand this urge to say sorry, especially to someone you care about, but I think the best way you can show him you respect that boundary is to enforce it.
Kogai! You know, you said Dahlia, aka the woman who tried to murder you, dragged you out. And also you paid for the drinks, but she chose them. I feel like, are you okay? Is a facile question at this point, dude. But I have to ask, are you? Not especially worse than usual, although I appreciate that's a low bar. What are you trying to ask?
Do you feel like you're in a position where you can say no to this sort of outing? I get that you might not have anywhere to turn here, but it kind of sounds like Dahlia might be pushing you around.
What? Oh, no. The drinking was my own fault. I suppose there was a small amount of peer pressure, but no more than I'd consider a typical amount, given my country of birth's culture of alcohol in the workplace. Dahlia and I were just talking. To be honest, we don't have much to talk about that isn't extremely miserable. So I kept drinking, and she kept getting my glass topped up.
Well, that's good. It's just a bit concerning that it sounded like she might have taken a knife to your throat.
Why did she think you were moping? Frankly, I think I have a lot of good reasons for it, and I don't care to go into any of them.
She sounds better than most of this shitty job, to be honest. I'd go drinking with her.
Should we leave it there?
I think we'll leave
We'll
it.
leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
We'll start next time with what to do when others in your organization avoid/circumvent you. I sense more Pratt. I'm just skimming. Nope, I don't see his name. More Pratt. Need more Pratt. Seriously, John.
Oh, John.
It's almost a miracle he got through that long. There were so many opportunities.
Oh, John. Tiny little John.
Tiny little John making silly mistakes. Don't die. Right, so let's talk about where we're going to be next.
The next time you will encounter us is on Friday, when this week's issue of The Full Lid will go live at 5 p.m. BST. Then, on Sunday, we will be returning to the not quite shadow run of Coffee Talk Chapter 2 between 9 and 11. Did I get those times right? I didn't get those times right.
What are we talking about?
Sunday.
Sunday. 10:30 to 12.
10:30 to 12:30. Thank you.
Even more coffee talk too.
Even more coffee talk.
We're having a very good time. And poor Gala appears to have lost his badge, or somebody lost their badge.
Scala's hospital ID badge.
It's either his hospital ID badge or it says it might be a pass to an apartment. So we'll find out.
Who knows?
Have a good night,
shortly.
Lavalish.
Have a good night, Lavalish. Lovely to have you along for the night. And then we'll be back here next Wednesday with even more There Is No Antimemetics division, where things get possibly worse.
Poor Adam. He's about to have such a bad time. At Alistair's tense, embarrassed John voice is choice. Yes, it very much is.
Thank you.
Right. I think that's everything.
Think
Hugo
it is.
announcements are tomorrow. Might let you in.
So if you have the capacity to vote, please consider votage.
Voting is supposed to open next week, I think, on the 10th of July.
Who knows where thoughts come from, Joe? They just appear.
Right. We'll figure it all out as we go along. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, folks. Sorry, I walked all over that.
It's okay. I was just going to say have a good evening for everybody, and now you can say,
I've been Alistair.
I've been Marguerite.
And this has been fun. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one, everybody. Quick, while I remember where to push the buttons.
It's fine, they can't hear.
Push the buttons. They can't hear us?
No, it's all good.
Should we just make funny faces?